Welcome to the Disruptors, the show for manufacturers, wholesalers, and industrial businesses, building their ace factor through digital transformation that actually delivers. Every week, we unpack real stories, strategies, and lessons using PSV Thinking, a practical framework focused on one thing: driving profits, enabling scale, and building long-term enterprise value. I am Ritesh Shah, CTO at Intuji, and your host. We are here to challenge how you think about tech, operations, and what's possible in your business. Let's get into it. Hey Julian, welcome back to another episode of The Disruptors.
Good to be here.
So today, the topic of the discussion would be the hidden cost of inefficiency and where to find it. Okay, I've been doing research around it, the efficiency and all that thing, and then I found one of the line that shocked me or pissed me very hard. Inefficiency is the tax your business pays for not involving. Found it very intriguing to me. So in your opinion, what does inefficiency actually look like inside a business?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You said, for me, what it looks like is where we are. Well, inefficiency is obviously we aren't being as efficient as we could be. There's wasted resource, there's wasted time, there's wasted money. We're not achieving things as quickly as we could, as efficiently as we could, and therefore that's leading to a loss in profitability because it's costing you time and money, is really how I would look at inefficiency. There's waste that can be cut out. There is waste there. There's padding, either in time or whatever it is, even materials, but that's not in our business, but there's a lot of things, labor, whatever it is, there's inefficiencies in that process or what we're doing, which costs us time and money.
Yeah, thanks for that. Makes sense. In lots of businesses I've seen is that most of the inefficiencies are gone unnoticed. Do you really agree to that, or what's your take on that? Most of the time, inefficiencies are unnoticed.
Yeah, I guess there's that argument. I would say it depends on who you're talking to and depends on what they're looking at in the business. If you're just bundling along, not really thinking kind of about profitability, GBS, what we've discussed and even our PSV thinking and things, then absolutely that it doesn't get thought about. But then if you're thinking about those things, you would be thinking the right way. But a lot of people don't have that mindset. And I agree with that they don't think about things like how much and don't realize how much things are actually costing them. So in our kind of line of work, that could be manual processes from an operations perspective, like paper-based processes, or it could be even just the inability that they're not letting customers self-service, for example, for orders, for account management, whatever it is. And we've met teams that have got 10 to 15 people working on account management, and 80% of their time using the 80-20 rule could be self-service or automated from a customer perspective. And businesses, yeah, I agree with that. Businesses then would look at that and go, no, we need that to basically have our business. But they haven't looked at it from a different angle to say, well, can we use those 15 people to grow the business instead of doing those manual tasks?
Totally agree. I've seen people, our companies rely on people as a system glue, and then they are not build a process. There's no system. Business are dependent on people, actually, where I believe this would be dependent on the system and then processes. And then if someone is dependent on people, then there will be the times their inefficiencies come to place.
Yeah, even risk is a big one. And scalability, if you're dependent on a person, not a system or a process, then you're limited to that person's ability or availability, essentially. And we know that ourselves, right? And that's what we're going through, that whole process in ourselves. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Have you ever experienced or have you ever dealt with any client who uses a spreadsheet and then it became a red flag for them, actually, rather than a helpful tool?
I think it's fair to say every single client we've ever worked with has used or is using spreadsheets or smart sheets or whatever you want to say. That's what's happened. We've met clients that are running kind of 20 to 40 spreadsheets with all different things trying to be tracking, and more than that even in some scenarios. Data's siloed, right, if that makes any sense. And again, it comes back to this whole, the system's broken, the process is broken. They typically end up doing this because we're starting to get a little bit, I wouldn't say off track here, but a little bit outside of the inefficiency thing, but it does link to it very much, I feel, is that they often end up in that position because they don't have a system that works for them, if that makes any sense. And what they do, instead of building the system, They mold their processes around what they can do rather than building the system as it should be, if that makes sense, right? So they go and build a spreadsheet because just in the short term, it's easier, right? If that makes sense. So it's easier to change the process than fix it and do it properly, right? In the short term. And what ends up happening is the short term just becomes the short term and the short term. And then eventually the short term is the long term, right? And there's been this compounding effect of just inefficiencies, broken processes. I do feel that a lot of these convoluted spreadsheets and siloed systems actually end up being more complicated and overcomplicating. Well, they do overcomplicate systems and things because they haven't been designed from the ground up to actually work for that business and how that business operates. E.g., they didn't take their business and digitize a perfect system. Instead, they've created this Frankenstein of a mess, and it becomes just even harder to deal with, right? And there's more time lost, there's more inefficiency, there's more sunk cost. And I don't honestly feel that businesses, I guess from my perspective, massively limit their capability and what they actually can achieve just by the fact of thinking that the investment's too high, which the investment is high, and in building their own platform or their own tools to actually help them do that. But what they don't calculate is how much it's costing them not doing it in profitability, but then also further than that, what they're losing out on enterprise value and the scale opportunities, right? It's the whole PSV thinking thing. We're talking here about inefficiencies and increasing profitability. That's great. But if you do that and you do it right, you can affect the scalability as well as the enterprise value of the business at the same time.
Exactly. So again, you already related to my next question that was like, how does like inefficiency can be tackled with PSV thinking? Because like I can relate to the spreadsheet example is that they haven't thought it properly in a PSV thinking way. We use Excel sheet for our couple of jobs. It's not that we do build every application for every piece of the work we do or maintain the data for. We also use for short term. It's good. It gives you value. Your work is done and then you get rid of it. But for long term, it doesn't give you a good value. And then your data is scattered and you are not scalable and profitable. Again, like it comes down to that as well. So I totally agree with you. These days I've been everything, whatever I think of and I would talk of, I can relate myself to PSV thinking. This morning also I was talking to my team and then wherever I go talk, this is not PSV thinking. This is not the way how we think. Actually, one thing I wanted to, I'm getting out of the topic, but I wanted to say that nowadays what I believe is PSV thinking, ACE factor, GBS, EOS, make and 4DCX and everything. This makes our company like Intuji. It's like identity of Intuji. It's the character of Intuji. As a human, we have our nose, lips, eyes, and everything different. Like, yeah, it's our DNA. That's how Intuji is made of.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. But now what we're doing is systemizing that whole, again, we've got our processes, we've got our systems, we've got what we're doing. We're digitizing that with IntujiOS, and that's why we're talking about with practicing what we preach and actually doing what we do for other clients. But is the fact, talking about these inefficiencies, we know ourselves, like talking about practical examples, even from the fact of like how we create documentation for clients. Now, there's tools out there. Yes, there's templates and all those things, but we do it a very specific way because we've got the standards that we expect, got the quality that we expect, we've got our own DNA, all of these kind of things. But how are we digitizing those systems to make the documentation, this is just one example, but the documentation of projects and or feature requests and things like that, they're as quick and efficient as we possibly can. We don't want team members spending wasted hours. Not that every hour spent on it is wasted, it's not my point, but how do we bring a certain task down from 100 hours to 20? So we've saved 80 hours. That's efficiency. That's efficiency in a nutshell. And we need to be looking at, which is exactly what we're doing with IntujiOS and what we're working on, but it's what every other business needs to be doing. How are we digitizing these processes, these systems to save that time, save that money? If you're a for-profit business, even if you're not a for-profit business, I've said this quite a lot, if you're a for-profit business in our episodes, but even if you're not for-profit business, efficiency is efficiency. Like everyone should want to do more with less. That's efficiency for me. And that's the point we haven't even got into the whole point of AI and everything else, but it's like all of this should be like, how do we use the tools we have available to be more efficient? And most people do not have the understanding of what the tools are capable of or how to structure the tools in the right way for their benefit. So what they do is they default back to what they know, what is easy. So it's like, oh yeah, we'll use a spreadsheet or we'll do this because it's familiar, right? And they may have had bad experiences in the past with building software or something like that there as part of it as well. But they default back to what they know and then they just do what everyone else does. If you do what everyone else does, get the results that everyone else gets. It's really that simple. And this is why, again, we bang on about it, but it's this PSV thinking is like when we're using tech, we're doing digital transformation, whatever it is, it should be how do we increase profitability? How do we enable scale? And how do we build enterprise value? And if you look at, for example, we take that spreadsheet, right? If we challenge it as hard as we possibly can, we've worked with clients, both of us have worked with different clients and we know those scenarios that we're talking about. We're not increasing profitability as much as we possibly can. It's not that scalable. It's difficult. And there's no enterprise value in it. It's just another spreadsheet in another business. More the fact that it actually detracts from enterprise value because it's not systemized. If an investor or someone comes in and looks at it, they're like, how the heck am I meant to fix this? If that makes any sense, right? And you straight away go, oh, why are we doing this? Right? If that makes sense. We need to build something that actually works for our business and actually moves forward with the business as well. Like it's not just a static thing, I guess. And I just want to reiterate, I'm banging on a bit here, but I want to reiterate that it's not, some of these things can be done in the ERP as well. Like there's things like, for example, from a manufacturing side, if an off-the-shelf solution does perfectly what you want it to do, then absolutely you should use that SaaS product or that off-the-shelf solution. There's no point trying to reinvent the wheel. But as you get a bigger business, as you are legit trying to create something that's different, if that makes sense, you're not trying to be like everyone else in your industry, everything else. You're trying to grow to be as efficient, as scalable, and as valuable as you possibly can be. The only way to achieve that is build your own systems. You cannot be as efficient, as scalable, and as valuable as you possibly can be with other people's systems. That is that simple.
The biggest cost to the business is not always what they spend.
It's what they miss out on and the opportunities they miss. This is why, sorry to butt in, but like this is the scale part of it is like a lot of the business at the moment, like, even they're doing well, it's not necessarily they're not doing well, but it's like, how could you take this from $100 million business to $200 million as quickly as possible? You have to do that through systems, meaning like to do that in 2-3 years, you can't just hire 50 more people and just think that they're going to do it like automatically. We should be looking at how do we do that and maintain the quality, maintain our differentiation as a business, everything else. And again, it's the same exercise. All of this stuff that we're talking about here, we put through ourselves through exactly the same stuff because we need to be doing the same thing, right? I believe any business that wants to be doing something, again, be as efficient as they possibly can be, scale as quickly as they feasibly can, and be as valuable from an enterprise value perspective as they possibly can, will own their own edge factor, will own their own systems, and will own their own data.
Exactly. While I'm thinking about this, actually, I'm thinking about not only the system and process. Actually, it's the system and process as well. One of the examples I would see is rather than a 4-hour-long meeting and all that kind of thing, a simple email could sort out, a minute email could sort out, be efficient enough to sort out a problem, to get into a conclusion. Like sometimes it will take 4 hours, arrange the time, and all that is a simple communication system process or like a efficiency.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that obviously where that stems from, I would say, and I'd ask you a question about this as well, but would be the fact that obviously a lot of people, the systems aren't there, the training's not there, and also I would say the context is not there, if that makes sense. A lot of that inefficiency time we know from ourselves from Project comes from the fact that context switching and just trying to understand things and people not like, we need to build the systems around to say this is exactly what needs to be done next, if that makes sense, where there's no question of like, and even just I think more from the fact as well is like letting the data do the talking. When you start to use data in your business down to the most junior team member, and we're experiencing this ourselves now with what we're starting to do and sharing, etc., is like it does things we could never do. No matter how much we say things or having access to that data and those insights does things that we could never ever do ourselves. And that's where the only reason we've got that data and can get that data is because of the systems we've built and how we've built them, how we've architected them, and how we've systemized the processes, digitized the processes to end up with that end result. And most businesses, I'll just say 98% of businesses do not have that level of, they report on profitability, they report on these things here, but they don't have the data, granular data data down to a junior team member that is working. Very few businesses, very, very few businesses down to the most junior team member have live real-time KPIs. Outside of profitability, I'm talking just things that move the needle in regards to work. Could be profitability, but it could be down. My point is down to them, what they are doing on a day-to-day and a real-time basis. And that is where we want to get to from a systems perspective, because again, that person joins the team, they go into that system, e.g. IntujiOS, and their hand gets held from there, essentially. Like the rest of it, it kind of sorts itself out. There's no, this guy forgot to do this and this person forgot. It's all digitized. It's all systemized. It's scalable, I guess. And the efficiencies are eliminated as far as we possibly can.
In today's world, like we are talking about inefficiency or efficiency, we can't miss out AI. And then again, I want to relate AI with one of the communication tool that you use in the company to replace you, to answer you. I would like to share with the audience, like, so that like that is what efficiency is. Like, I guess that's what was one example. So I would love you to share that knowledge to the wider audience so that they can also use what we are using currently in our office.
It's for simplicity's sake, it's a tool I've created. I've been working on kind of a database, a whole heap of data, structured data about myself, about the company and things for a long time now, over 12 months, maybe 2 years. Again, it's taken time to do that, but we know, and me and you have talked about this for a long time, that data is the bedrock of success with AI, and structured data, structured systems. So I've been working on that for a long time. And now what I'm trying to do essentially, and this is in the MVP stage, but I'm trying to build a tool that allows the whole team to kind of access knowledge in regards to what I mean by knowledge. They can ask me questions about the company, about me, about how we think, how we do things, kind of what PSV Thinking is, GBS is, about clients, any of that. And they would get a very good answer. I'm not talking a generated crap answer, AI generated answer. I'm talking about very specific to the data we've already created, very specific to the company, exactly how it is. And we've already done testing, and yeah, it's pretty impressive. Like with the testing that we've done, it's not perfect, no, but it needs more data, needs more time, more training, more refinement. But we're going to build this into IntujiOS eventually. The end goal is, I'm a team member in Intuji. I've got a question. I would want to be able to ask Julian the question. I can just ask IntujiOS and it will give me the same answer. Literally that simple. It doesn't mean that it replaces people talking to me or you, whoever it is. It's just efficiency. Like I might be in a meeting for 5 hours or whatever. I'm not saying 5 hours, but I might be off site for the whole day or whatever it is, right? And the biggest thing about that is that this team member can just straight away get an answer and move forward. That's efficiency. If that team member is held up for however long, if that makes sense, if they're held up for a few hours or whatever else, we've lost 2 or 3 hours. We've lost that time. It's not efficient, right? So again, some people get on this like, oh yeah, you're just trying to replace all humans with AI. It's not the point. You're augmenting, you're embedding AI into the processes to become more efficient. And this is where, again, I get a bit passionate about it, but so many people dog AI or like say, oh, it's so crap and everything else. Honestly, I would challenge how much those people have been actually tested, built their own little MVPs, have really good structured data, have tested systemized things with AI. Because I've spent genuinely thousands of hours, I would say possibly over 5,000 hours over the last couple of years, last 3 or 4 years, probably more than that even. I don't know, thousands of hours tweaking, testing, ideating, coming up with these ideas. And that is how you know what is possible with it and actually verify it. Now, there are a lot of people that I call just fake AI influencers or things like that there that are just like, oh, AI is amazing. And they get all of these very generic, very polished use cases that when you scratch beneath the surface are just fake, right? Like it's not useful. And that hurts the whole look of it. But where it is useful, in my opinion, is less about the whole just chuck in chat GPT and, generate this or do that. Where we will see as a business with what we're doing and how we're structuring it, which we're not going to release everything publicly, clearly, but is the fact of what we're building will completely transform our operations. We've already proven test cases for it, right? We've already tested things out. It will enable our team to focus 80% of their time on doing things that AI can't do and like really moving the needle for our clients and our business as well. Then we'll take things like, for example, ideation of ideas or documentation or email reviews or a client updates or clients asking about support package out, all of these things that we're like, no, we can now just, AI can handle that and we can do the other stuff that it can't do. And I want to reiterate is that we've actually built MVPs. We've tested this. We're actively working on it. Most people that talk about it haven't done any of that. And they talk about it, about how cool it is and all this stuff. And when you actually dig deep, they've never actually tested it. They've used ChatGPT and Claude and whatever else, or Perplexity, AI Studio, whatever. They may have built a simple API here and there, but they've never fully tested it. Now, there's obviously big companies that are doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying, I said this the other day on LinkedIn, the people that will win long-term are the companies that embed, that's the phrase I'm using, embed AI into their processes. It's not about replacing bad processes. It's not about layering AI on top of bad processes or anything like that. It's about fixing the process, digitizing the process, and embedding AI in the process, saying, okay, what part of this process could be structured and made 80% easier by AI? And that is how we will win long-term.
Exactly. And then I can agree more on that. Basically, in my understanding, and the most of the inefficiency that occurs is because of the miscommunication or communication hazard. If AI can solve that communication problem, that is a very drastic change. Basically, I have seen people don't know what to do and they are assigned tasks. It's not clearly assigned. There's a communication problem. If it's described properly, is followed through properly, then the efficiency can be drastically improve.
Yeah. And I'd agree. I would say it's not only about AI. I think I agree AI can help that, but I think back up the stream, how we fix our processes and digitize our processes. So this is the point. For example, even for ourselves, and these are other businesses, but we have project documentation and things, and we have systemized it and whatever else, but we can take it to a whole nother level, which we are taking to a whole nother level, which is what no one kind of globally is doing in our space, but we're going to be taking it to a whole nother level with IntujiOS, etc. But it's like that will be a set of guidelines, a framework, systems where you can't here's the next step, here's the next step, here's what we're doing, here's what we need to do. Whereas now, same in other businesses, but it's kind of like, here's what we want to do, but you kind of interpret that and do it however you want, right? And then that's where it leads to issues, because it's like, well, no, that's not what the business prides itself on. No, that's not how we do things, if that makes sense. No, that's not what clients expect. So we need to not limit the creativity, but what we need to do is set the guardrails, the frameworks there, right? The systems where it's like, this is what you need to do next, and this is how we need to do it. And then that person can go, oh, okay, makes sense, right? And there's just so much. So we can get onto this whole AI thing. But the biggest thing about it is, without getting into that deeply, but we're talking about inefficiencies here, is that most businesses are nowhere near digitizing their processes, is how I describe it. A lot of them are still doing paper, or a lot of them have spreadsheets. And that's not properly digitizing. Yes, you've put it in a spreadsheet, or you put it in this, but you've got 5,000 different systems and whatever, right? It's not properly doing it. Very, very few businesses are at anywhere near a level where they have genuinely properly digitized their systems. They've built their own systems. They've got something that works. The data is well structured. Anyone can follow it. It's scalable. Very few people are even at that point in their digital transformation journey. Now they're going to try and embed AI on top of it, right? It's just going to, I made another comment about this on LinkedIn yesterday. It's like giving someone that can't drive a race car. They won't get to the destination faster. They'll crash quicker. The whole point of it is like, you have to digitize, get the systems right, get the whole processes right, get the data right. Then we can use AI. But it's all to do with the efficiency. Even without AI, just doing that systemization, the digitization properly will make you infinitely more efficient.
The information is scattered is even the biggest problem for AI as well, right?
100%. It's useless.
People are thinking AI can solve each and every problem and all that kind of thing. If the data is scattered, the data is rubbish, it's nothing for AI. It's just rubbish. For anyone, for you, for anyone. One thing I would say is rather than having 5 different systems, 5 different application data scattered here and there, try to as soon as possible collect the data in one place so that AI can also be used properly, and then report could be generated around it. The report is that helps you make a bigger, wiser decisions actually.
Totally agree. we've worked with businesses, and to bring this to a practical example for either a service business, like industrial service business, or a manufacturer or something, where we've worked with businesses where they've had paper-based processes, they've had smart sheets, paper-based processes, all of these things linked and combined, I guess is the way to put it. There's no central source of truth. There's no real next step. It's all kind of a bit wishy-washy is the way I describe it. Like, it's not crystal clear. The problem with that, they don't have the data they need. The quality checks aren't in place. When they hire new people, they've got to train them a lot more. There's mistakes made. There's things that slip through the cracks. I guess it's disjointed. It's not complete, if that makes any sense. It's like it feels siloed. It feels disjointed, and therefore problems happen. We've worked with solutions where it's like you take them, that whole idea of that business, what makes them unique, what they do very well, and we create a system specifically for them, not just a piece of software. Again, yes, it's software. Yes, it's applications, etc. But something that is specifically designed around their business, how they work, no more, no less, no flashy features. Again, PSV thinking, but actually moves the needle for them. Something that, for example, a job comes in, it goes straight into the system. They go next, they do this, they go next, they do this. This is tracked. They submit photos for QA. They go through here. The client gets an email, signs off on it, verifies it. It's all in the same platform, comes back. The fitter does this. This person does this. This person does that. And okay, we're done. We're finished. And the difference in that business to one that has got paper processes, smart sheets, NetSuite, all of these different things, that, not to say that NetSuite's bad or you should replace your ERP, but more the point that just they've got all of this stuff everywhere. No real, there's no central platform, central source of truth. We call it your operating system, your nucleus. It's just like, yeah, this is what we do and this is what's going on. Businesses, I don't think realize the power that something like that can have on a business if it's done well, is the way I describe it.
And I've seen businesses like use ERP system here and there, all that kind of thing. What I believe is they haven't used to its full potential actually. And then basically ERPs are built to have everything in one platform most of the time. Your sales invoices, your clients, contacts, whatever, everything. Try so that you can have generate report and everything. It's built to be used easily, but things get complicated and then scattered here and there because of the inefficiency and all that.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing when we talk about ERPs from my perspective, because we have worked with businesses that have them, that don't have them, and I'm a big fan of, I guess, trying to have a central source of truth. But there's one interesting, and this is like an interesting conversation we can have now, but the biggest reasons we see, I guess, lack of adoption with ERPs is that, number one, there's no technical resource in-house, but they like to actually do it, and then they end up building it terribly and it's not easy to use. Another point of it is, like, we know through just our own experience, is that the success of any of these, what we call operating systems, or these platforms for businesses that they're building themselves, is the end user experience, whether that's your customers, whether that's your team, management, whoever it is, the end user experience. And how many times, and we know this, have we been to businesses where they've tried to use the ERP and the interface of the ERP to run kind of manufacturing workflows or whatever workflows, even customer support tickets and that kind of thing. And it's so crap, the UI and the experience, that eventually it never gets used or it gets given up on. For example, when you deal with like an airline or something like that, there, you don't interface with their ERP directly. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, you can see just through looking at how they've integrated and everything that they've obviously interfacing with airlines. It's so many systems, it's scary, but they obviously push and pull into that. But what I'm saying is, you're not expected to actually interface with a NetSuite, kind of like a Suite Commerce something, or even just a NetSuite interface where it's built with a generic UI and that kind of thing. But people do that, and then they wonder why it doesn't work. It's not the idea, it's the experience that's the problem. The idea was there, you just didn't crack it with the right experience. So don't blame the idea, blame the experience. And it's the same thing even if you build yourself, right? Like, so people go and build their own software and they build a complete piece of rubbish and like, oh, it doesn't work. So it's not the idea. The idea works. You just executed it poorly. I can relate to that actually a lot of time. Basically, clients come to us with all this inefficiency problems here and there, and the client wants to have everything in one place, but with the poor execution idea, poor process, we try to do it, but with the poor plan,
the things go crappy and all, the user can't use it. Like in the start of my days, like the early career of my days, like I built a lot of application, and then it went to crap because I just built it because like I wanted to showcase my skills around the programming or technology and all that kind of thing, right? But it wasn't meant for users. It had all the features. I didn't. So that has happened with agencies. Like agencies, we have been passed through that experience, and then all that kind of thing. Now we have the mindset that okay, this is the user that is going to use. It's not the technology; it's the user who is going to drive the app or anything. Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that. And then even further than that is focusing on the business outcomes. So outcome-driven digital transformation. We're focusing on the business outcomes, not just like, oh, let's build this feature. And so many businesses, even today, they come to us and say, we want to do this, we want to build this feature, whatever. Great. Okay, let's bring it back to business outcomes. What are you actually trying to achieve from a business perspective? Because even as someone that we're trying to help them and work with them, we've got to understand that. What they might be requesting from a features perspective, whatever else, might be totally legitimate, whatever else. But it's more the fact of saying, like, we've got to understand very crystal clear, why are we doing what we're doing? What are we trying to achieve here? What are we trying to do? Again, we know this through IntujiOS. We know very clearly what we're trying to achieve from the business perspective. And we can talk about some of the features. We're not going to talk about the actual features we have in it necessarily, but I'm saying that we know when we're talking about it of like what's there. None of those features have come out of like, oh, let's build this. It's come out of, as a business, we're struggling with X. We need to get the data. We need to focus on, and then you reverse engineer that. And we say, we want to get to this place as a business. This is the outcome we want. We need to be able to do this as a business. Okay, let's reverse engineer that and go right back up to say, okay, what do we need to put in place at the very beginning with the data capture, whatever it is, what's the process we need to implement, what's the process that we need to change in order to achieve this end result? And that's the biggest difference. 99.99% of people, businesses, agencies, whatever it is, focus on, yeah, let's build this massive loyalty thing, or let's do this, or let's build this new warranty thing and whatever else. But it's like, it might all be right. Like it's not to say it's wrong. The point of it is that they can't articulate. When you challenge them, like, what does this mean for the business? What are you actually trying to achieve for the business? And put it in very detailed words, not just, oh, we want to be more efficient. How? What are you struggling with at the moment? Like going into more detail, diagnosing that. They can't do it. They can't say what they're trying to do. And we know this just through experience from working with clients and businesses. And that's where it's our job to help them unlock that and say, okay, you've got these issues with profitability or scaling, whatever it is. They might be a great business. They might even be quite profitable. Not even necessarily they might not be profitable. They might be decently profitable, but they might have issues just with quality and scaling. And they, again, anyone that wants to win and is good, they constantly want to improve, which means that they constantly want to be the best. So they're looking at how do we improve? And it's our job to come in and say, okay, let's look at what are the key things. And one of the first questions we asked, and I've already said this before, but is if you were to double the business overnight, what would break first? That typically reveals a lot of the issues. Obviously, it's a lot to do with scaling, but it links to enterprise value because people that want to buy the business want to scale the business typically. And if it's more scalable and systemized and there's intellectual property there, then that there is valuable. And it typically links to increased profitability because normally that scaling constraint or those manual processes are stopping the scaling and are adding burden and load, which is decreasing your profitability, right? It's a bottleneck. So it's that one question is really one. And we know, I go through it myself often, like, okay, where's our bottlenecks? If we double the business, what's going to break first? And we know the areas that we're fixing with IntujiOS for that very reason. We're trying to automate this. We're trying to systemize it properly to go, okay, now that's no longer a bottleneck. So we might not necessarily double the business overnight tomorrow, but the point of it is it's possible to do it. That's the difference. All right. And that all comes back to me where we started with inefficiency. You fix that, you fix the scale problem, and you do it properly with the PSV thinking, you build your edge factor, you're a business that someone wants to invest in.
Okay, so we are almost out of the time for today, actually. And then we have also touched into AI, inefficiency, all the aspects of it. So Lastly, I would like to give you the opportunity to summarize it, takeaway as for this episode, actually.
Yeah, good question. I think look at the question we just discussed, which is if you were to double the business overnight, what would break first in regards to the systems and processes, if that makes sense. Look at how much of the system is digitized, how much of your system is genuinely digitized, where it's not just spreadsheets with glorified paper-based processes in spreadsheets. That is not digitizing your systems and creating proper systems and frameworks to follow. Another point would be how much, if you, especially with your customers, and this is one area we're lacking in at the moment, and I'm more than happy to, not happy, but I'm prepared to be honest and say that, but is self-service for customers. We've got our project management stuff and that at the moment, but we know where we want to take it. We're nowhere near that. We need to really level that up. But that would be a challenge I'd put to other businesses out there of saying how much of your customers can genuinely self-service the majority of what you're doing. And yeah, that would be a couple of questions I would take away and ask those things, and that would reveal a lot of the insights. And look at what's the biggest thing costing your profitability right now, and you might identify that. Then how do we digitize and systemize that process? Don't go and say, oh, we're going to put on another 3 managers just to try and manage the problem. You're not fixing the root cause of the issue. What happens when you scale again? You're going to get another 3 managers, right, to fix that problem as well. Like, the whole point is fix the root cause of the issue. Digitize it, systemize it, build your own systems, build your edge factor, and you'll win.
Thanks, Julian. Thanks for sharing all these insights. And it was a great conversation today. So I'll wrap this off for this week, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, Julian, again. Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Disruptors. If you are serious about unlocking your ace factor, the thing that sets your business apart and helps it grow sustainably, don't forget to follow, share, and leave a quick review. We will be back next week with more real-world insights and no-flop conversations on how to rethink your systems, modernize operations, and build value that lasts. Until then, stay sharp, stay focused, and keep disrupting.